All right, folks, it's time for World Edition. We've got a very special guest that'll be joining us. I see that she's joined us on all along those lines. So we'll be learning about a special holiday in India as well as what's going on in yoga practices and other things along those lines. But first, let me get you to the news items and everything that's taking place in terms of news around the world and all along those lines. We do know that there was a drone attack recently and all in that kind of way. So a lot of people have been talking about what was going on in that situation with Russia and Poland and all in that kind of way. So there's a number of things that are going on in that way, and we're definitely going to be talking about that here on Pod TV as well as what's been going on in Nepal with the kids that have been protesting and all along those lines because they were upset about what was going on with social media and what was happening in their restrictions and what they could do in terms of social media and all along those lines. So, like I said, there's a lot going on in the world, and we'll definitely be covering that here on Pod TV. But Russia says it had no plans to target Poland as UK condemns unprecedented drone attack. Putin's dangerous drone probe is a moment of truth for NATO, and Poland says it shut down Russian drone that entered its airspace. And Trump's credibility challenged in both Qatar and Poland, so people are definitely talking about that. And Qatar is threatening to retaliate against Israel for the Doha strike on Hamas. So definitely that's something that's in the news as well. And soldiers guard Nepal's parliament as patrol streets after 2 days of deadly protests. The parliament in flames. A leader toppled. Nepal's Gen Z protesters ask what comes next. So people are asking also who's leading Nepal after Ali's resignation. So definitely that is something that the army is patrolling at Kathmandu as Gen Z claims protests were hijacked. And France's finances are in turmoil. France's braces for protests as well. French President Emmanuel Macron appoints an outgoing defense minister, Sebastien Lecornu, as a prime minister. So definitely that is something that folks are talking about as well. And von der Leyen vows to punish Israel extremist ministers and pause payments. Ursula von der Leyen calls for suspension of EU trade with Israel, and the EU chief pledges action aimed at halting the Israeli war on Gaza. And the EU Commission president seeks sanctions, partial trade suspension against Israel over the war in Gaza. And Trump is urging the EU to impose 100% tariffs on China and India to pressure Putin. So Trump floats new tariffs on China and India to squeeze Russia and all in that way. So Trump presses the European Union to impose 100% tariffs on those two nations, and we'll see how this all plays out. Iran agrees to give UN Atomic Agency access to its nuclear site. So Iran and nuclear watchdog sign agreement seeking path to restart cooperation. So Iran and the UN watchdog reach agreement to resume nuclear inspections. So that's something that folks are looking at on the global front as well. And Elizabeth Tesikoff, a Princeton student, is released from Iraq. Trump has reported that. So, Israeli Russian graduate student freed after 903 days in captivity of an Iraqi militant group. So, definitely it's good to see that that particular student has been released, and we'll see what else is going on in that sense as well. So, definitely a lot's going on in the world and around the world, and even here in the United States, and all in that kind of way. So, we'll get to some of the United States story. Iriana Zeratoski's family demands justice in their first statement since the horrific statement took place in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Trump is blaming Democrats for the Charlotte stabbing. But records are complicated in that story because I've even heard reports that while he was released 14 times and all along those lines, apparently he had a history of mental illness and might have even had a history of schizophrenia. So it might also be an indictment on the whole nature of our mental health system and all along those lines. So definitely the gruesome train attack in Charlotte is adding fuel to the national debate on the crime and everything like that. So we'll see how this all plays out. And Trump's control of the DC police is due to expire tonight. DC crimes fall, but tourism took a hit too as Trump's federal surge reaches its 1 month mark. So we'll see how this all goes. And I know that there's been talk about Chicago, and of course, people have been in in terms of National Guard in Los Angeles and other places as well. And of course, there have been threats for other parts of the country, including, I believe, New York City. But Trump was greeted by protesters in D.C. restaurant where he had dinner, but cheers outside. So protesters called out Trump as he dines out in Washington, as he made a surprise D.C. restaurant stop to showcase virtually no crime in the Capitol and faces down protesters, is what some folks are saying. Boston Mayor Michelle Wu and challenger Josh Kraft advanced to one-on-one general election. So Mayor Michelle Wu keeps her staggering lead over Josh Kraft as both advance to the November election. So we'll see what goes on in that space, as it looks like the Boston mayor will face a political newcomer. And there's been this report on children's health that was released by RFK Jr. And apparently, according to Politico, Trump is keeping RFK Jr. in his tent and on a leash. But the MAHA plan, the Make America Healthy Again plan for healthier kids, includes 128 ideas, but few details. So we'll see what folks have to say about that. And while Trump immigration raids snared South Korea workers over visas, leaked ICE document shows workers detained in the Hyundai raid had a valid visa. So attorney says detained Korean Hyundai workers had special skills for short-term jobs. So definitely this is one of those ICE raids as well. And Democratic governors build vaccine firewall against RFK Jr. So definitely this debate is going on as well. And Trump administration is asking Congress for extra funding in talks to dodge a shutdown. So Democrats embrace the government shutdowns in Trump 2.0. So we'll see whether we have a shutdown or not. And in her new book, Kamala Harris says it was reckless to let Biden make re-election decisions. As a matter of fact, I believe next month she'll be right here in Durham, North Carolina, where I'm based at a book event at one of our event centers. I believe it's the Durham Performing Arts that she'll be at, and all along those lines. So definitely she's opening up on the recklessness of the Biden's re-election bid, and she admits that Biden got tired and denies conspiracy to hide his mental decline. So definitely there's lots going on in that space, and we'll see who they bring out this time. Who knows? I think Kamala says she's not running this time around, but maybe she'll change her mind. And of course, people are looking at Pritzker out of Illinois and Newsom out of California, and another of other ones as well. And the U.S. Supreme Court will decide the legality of Trump's tariffs. So Trump warns of doom if tariffs are ruled illegal. Others see a tax cut. So we'll see how the Supreme Court rules in this case. And Democrats fight over how to defeat Republican Senator Susan Collins. So in Maine, a brewery owner and an oyster farmer hope to upend the establishment and oust Susan Collins from the Senate. And Governor Pritzker is saying Trump's threat to Chicago makes him worry about the 2026 elections. So ICE operations ramp up in Chicago ahead of Mexican Independence Day, and a grieving Illinois father blames the sanctuary policies as ICE issues crackdown in the daughter's honor. So definitely lots going on, including Missouri House approving a new U.S. House map that seeks to erase a Democratic seat. So Missouri House passed a gerrymandered congressional map, and all in that way. So, and the judge has blocked Trump's bid to fire Lisa Cook from the Federal Reserve Board. Cook can remain a Fed governor while fighting Trump's attempted firing, is what the court has ruled. So that's just some of the things going on in the news. And along that situation, I'm going to bring in Anada, and we might have some other folks joining us as well, but lots going on in the world. And definitely I know that Anada has been involved, because I said I was going to reach out to her in the whole notion of a major holiday that a lot of people don't know about, and all along those lines, as well as in the yoga movement and all in that space. So tell us about this holiday, because when I read about it in RTIR, I was like, I didn't know that this major holiday existed. I know it's very big in Asia, and I think in parts of India, but I wasn't aware of it as much. So if you'll share a little bit about your research on this holiday and what you're doing with this holiday, it would be greatly appreciated.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Mark. I actually grew up celebrating this holiday. It's called Navaratri, which means the 9 nights of the goddess festival. And we used to dance around a flame with a lot of people dancing in circles or in a circle together. And I never understood what it was all about. We would do this every single fall. There would be pomegranate seeds, there would be puffed rice, there would be, this whole big music and dancing celebration. And Indians all over the world actually celebrate this festival with a lot of the same fanfare. And it was only until actually learning about the deeper significance of this festival that I discovered this is actually symbolic of the spiritual journey that we all go through to become the most enlightened version of ourselves. And the goddess is representing the power we have to give birth to the most authentic version of ourselves by going through the internal battles we all have to fight within ourselves to be able to emerge as the hero of our own journey.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense and everything. I noticed that during the pandemic, and there's been reports that even now we're still having COVID cases and all along those lines and everything like that, that a lot of people turned to Eastern philosophy, Eastern thought, whether it was yoga, whether it was meditation, whether it was a number of other things to get through these times that we've been in. And definitely people are out and about more. So there's definitely more public engagement and all in that space. I know that I'm involved in event planning, and I know that there have been a number of big concerts. As a matter of fact, I think Raleigh, North Carolina just did last weekend our big hopscotch festival and everything like that. But I just wanted your take on why there's been this rise in appreciation of Eastern philosophy.
Well, as you said, we're just in highly uncertain times, and the Eastern philosophers have revealed to us how to find our steady ground and find the steadiness within while the storms are going on outside of us. And our world has become unprecedentedly unstable. So we are finding that a lot of people are starting to change where they look for stability from the outer world, which got closed during the pandemic, to actually looking more within themselves. And I think that's where Eastern wisdom has a lot to share about the nature of the soul and what it means to really connect with that part of us that is unchanging, unmoving, and eternal.
Yeah, that makes sense. What are some of the principles of the holiday? You mentioned that there are certain principles involved, and how long does the holiday go? Because, like I said, it seems like it was a very long holiday that existed, and I know there's some other ones that can last for months on end, and it looks like this one can last for a long time as well. And how much would you compare it to some of the other fall holidays? Because even though we're in September, we will be coming up in November around a lot of the holidays in the Jewish faith, the Muslim faith, and of course Christmas is just around the corner and everything like that. So how would this holiday compare to those other kind of like fall and winter type holidays?
Yeah, so this holiday was actually amazingly designed to help people mark the change of the seasons. So we're actually marking the fall harvest season through the celebration of the festival. And that's why there's certain fall seasonal foods that are always made for this particular festival. It's actually a 10-day festival. So it's 9 days and 9 nights. And then the 10th day is basically a day of integration and a day of really celebrating the eternal victory of the light over darkness. So on every single day of this festival, the warrior mother goddess Durga is represented by a different avatar that is said to live in one of our chakras, which is like a physiological center within us that is responsible for a certain power, like the power of stability, the power of creativity, the power of transformation, love, voice, truth, intuition, rejuvenation, and intention. So it's really an amazing festival that actually touches upon every aspect of life and health and is ritualistically designed to help people transition from the food and lifestyle needs of one season to those of another season. If we go really deep into Indian history, we will actually see that this festival used to be celebrated up to 4 times per year, and still is in some places, because it's celebrated at every change of the season. Now it's more popular in the fall for the harvest season, and it's also quite popular, but not quite as popular in the spring season.
Okay, so it's definitely celebrating all the seasonal kind of things. Because I know that even I've got friends that are involved in Kwanzaa, and they try to celebrate a little bit of the seasons as well as various principles and all along those lines. So it definitely sounds like it has some similarities even to that holiday, because they definitely break down everything from economic cooperation to family ties to a number of other various principles that are part of the Kwanzaa celebrations and all along those lines. What time did how where are you based at? Are you based in India, and how long did you? What is your own educational background? Then we'll bring in some of my other panelists, and they may have questions for you. I know that Jim is here, and Jim has definitely done a lot of work around freedom and philosophy. He's actually got a book that talks about betterment and all along those lines. But definitely, just share a little bit about your own background and how you got involved in this work and what you're hoping that this work leads to.
Sure. Yeah. So I got involved with this work just through my own personal healing journey. I grew up in the United States. I still live in the United States. I went to India, discovered Ayurveda, the ancient science of healthy living and the world's first holistic system of health, while taking a yoga teacher training over there. And then I moved to California and ended up studying for almost 10 years with a traditional master from ancient, like whose family lineage goes back to ancient India. And now my purpose with, teaching people about this festival and really taking them on a step-by-step hero's journey with it is to empower people to overcome any kind of darkness in their life, any kind of trauma that they've gone through, and know that you can not only reclaim your physical, mental, and spiritual health in the face of this darkness, but also, rise as a beacon of light and inspiration to ultimately be able to lead and serve and help people with integrity.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense as I bring in Jim, and I'm sure he's got some questions for you and all along those lines. 'Cause like I said, he does a lot of work and all in that kind of way. Um, Definitely, I'm just as I'm hearing you talk about this, we hear a lot around the world, and you heard my news report, and a lot of times there's a lot of negativity, and people are always talking about the battle between good and evil, light and dark, and everything like that. And hear people talk about folks being light warriors and things like that. So I just wanted your take on this whole battle and where we are, because it does seem like a lot of people are frustrated. I mean, I know that there are people that are thinking that we might be heading to even martial law here in the United States, and they're wondering if the forces of evil are not winning and all along those lines. But I just wanted your take on that whole battle between good and evil. As a young person, I'm guessing that you're probably either a millennial or a Gen Z and all along those lines. But I'm just wondering your take on this whole notion of the battle between good and evil and what's going on in our current society.
I think we're definitely going through a major shift in our current society. And I feel that the whole purpose of this festival, and really all of the ancient Indian Vedic spiritual festivals, is to affirm the eternal victory of light over darkness. And that no matter what is going on within or around us, it is temporary. And ultimately, the light of the ultimate truth is all there really is.
That makes sense. Jim, what's your take? You've been hearing some of this conversation. We'll bring in Rick and Sasha as well, but I know that you've done a lot of work just around healing and everything like that, because you've definitely even done some work around getting people past substance abuse and things along those lines. So definitely, if you just share maybe a little bit of your own story and your own thoughts around some of the conversation you're hearing from Miss Anada.
Well, I'm so delighted to be here. And namaste, Anada. It's lovely to meet you and to hear you talk. The festivals, the harvest festivals are an important part. But I loved what you said about the inner struggle to become our best enlightened and our most enlightened selves. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is teaching Arjuna that. It's your inner struggle, and what I tell people is it's an inside job. Don't point the finger at someone else. My last book is called No Blame, No Shame, because if you're pointing a finger, there's multiple fingers pointing back at you, and to take responsibility for your own actions. But this is a dark time, and the Yugas teach us that there are cycles even into the world, and we're coming into a more beautiful cycle, perhaps, less earthbound, but the struggles can be very dark before you get into the light. And so these are the types of things we try to empower the powerless and give hope to the hopeless. And I applaud what you're doing, the message that you're trying to carry. I'm doing similar work, and I just think that The more you get in, Mark, I appreciate the network giving an opportunity for us to talk about things like this, because we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And the more we can tap into the spiritual aspects of our nature, I think the more kindly and more lovingly we can treat each other. And we don't have a lot of examples of that in leadership positions today, but that too may change. Who knows? Let's have some hope.
Yeah. Who are some of the leaders that you admire, Anada, whether they are spiritual leaders or whether they are political leaders or even just people in general? They might even be, because you said you're in California, some of the folks in Hollywood and music and all along those lines. But who are some of the people that you really admire in terms of leadership?
In terms of leadership, I have to say I really admire the now 98-year-old spiritual guru who I got to study Vedanta with after I went through the journey with my first teacher. I had an opposite learning experience where I learned fully remotely online and went verse by verse actually through the Bhagavad Gita and many other ancient spiritual texts. And what impressed me about this Swami's ability is that he is able to convey some really, really dense spiritual wisdom in a way that all kinds of leaders of today can really understand. He's been addressing communities from the YPA, the Harvard Business School graduates, like really making this accessible to leaders in modern contexts in a way that's simple yet profound. And he's been training young people especially to learn how to think for themselves. And I think that is what's so needed and so missing in today's spiritual world, is that people surrender their power to a master and they lose the ability to really think for themselves, to question everything. And that's what Swami is empowering youth especially to be able to do. It's also very impressive to me that in his 80s, he was winning cricket matches with youth in their 20s. And that just goes to show the power of taking care of your mind, body, and spirit to have longevity that truly, takes you into the old age in a graceful and joyful way.
It makes sense. We've also got Rick, who has definitely been involved in Emmy-nominated worked with Jimmy Kimmel and a number of other things as well, but is definitely involved in philosophy as well. So, Rick, I know you've been listening for a while as well. So, any thoughts around the work that Anada is doing and everything along those lines? And just really, are you able, Anada, before Rick asks you any questions he's got, to engage in some of this work on a kind of like a more personal level, like even helping in some of the causes that are in LA has had problems with homelessness and other things? Are you able to bring your philosophical work into other types of work while you were there in California and either at the university, if you're at university, or just in your general life and everything?
Yeah, so actually the work that I've done started by teaching a program in the California probation departments. I was training staff members in probation in how to lead a healthy lifestyle in harmony with nature. And we also piloted programs in universities at Stanford School of Medicine's Health Improvement Program. And I now am just really committed to working with organizations, with institutions. I serve as advisor of Ayurveda at The Well, which is a really beautiful wellness center practicing integrative medicine and healing here in Florida. Now I live in Florida. I did live in California, but now I'm here in Florida. And just promoting the message. I also offer online programs and a whole community for healers, teachers, and coaches to be able to have support and to be able to give from a full cup.
That makes sense. Rick, what's your take on that? Go ahead.
I guess what I'd be interested in is work that helps you stay centered in the world while the world is changing so fast. Where 20 years ago you could ignore the news for weeks at a time. Now there's just new stuff, not just political but technological, every frickin' day. And my wife will she'll do a crazy laugh like and then she'll turn off the TV. And we need some kind of practice and I'm bad. Jim is good at like meditation. I'm terrible at it, but I've got other techniques. But like how to not be freaked out all the time.
Yeah. What advice would you give about meditation, Anada, and everything? That's I think where Rick was going with that. So, what advice would you give for folks that are interested in meditation and maybe aren't the best at meditation? I know that sometimes, even whether it was with prayer or meditation, it's just like finding that calm spot. But like Rick said, society's constantly hitting us, whether it is news hitting us or family hitting us or all of those kind of things. So, how would you suggest to somebody like Rick or even myself that we could find some meditation spots?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I recently published a book called The Way of the Goddess, which has 81 rituals, daily rituals, to be able to basically find this stability in the midst of the storm. And not one of these practices is actually formal seated meditation. So what I would say is that you could go through this book and see what resonates with you. It's organized by the chakra system. So you can take an inventory, which I offer on my website, or just going to chakrahealingguide.com and download that, and then you'll see like all these questions to know which of your chakras are out of balance, which are in balance, and then one simple practice you can do to bring that into greater balance. For just plain power of stability itself, I would say that the practice of rooting your feet into Mother Earth and practicing trusting in the earth itself is quite profound.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hey, speaking of the way of the goddess, I know that there's oftentimes talk about how we all have masculine and feminine energy and everything. So some people will hear that book and they'll be like, that's just for the women. I don't need to read that book. So is the book actually geared toward men as well? Because the book does has the title, The Way of Goddess. But I personally know that we all have both masculine and feminine energy. But I'm just wondering your thoughts around that, because some people are going to hear that title and are automatically going to be thrown off by the title because they're going to think that it's a woman's book and not have anything to do with man, and the man can gather something from it. But I just wanted your take on that.
Yeah, that's very true. So, I actually made sure that the cover was a neutral color. They wanted to make this hot pink. And I was like, no, let's make it a neutral blue kind of tone so that everyone feels it's accessible to them.
Better than pink.
It was just very, very pink. I love pink, obviously, but
Yeah, of course.
my book cannot be pink. So I chose this for a reason, and I've actually had a lot of male reviewers of the book share about what a life-changing journey it's been for them. And I feel that the male students I've had have also learned a lot from integrating more of the divine feminine into themselves and their lives, because we all need both the feminine and the masculine energies within us. So I think this is actually a great source of healing for men as well as women.
What are some of the 81 principles? You don't have to go to all 81, but what are some of the 81 that we're bringing? Jacoby, who's involved in the gaming industry and other things as well. But definitely, what are some of your thoughts around the principles? Like you said, there's 81, and 81 would probably take a couple hours. So if you just want to get to some of the core ones, and all along those lines.
Yeah, sure. So the practices, they range from things like stabilizing your sleeping schedule, from like sleeping by 10, waking up by 6 to live in alignment with circadian rhythms, to then really like ensuring that when you speak in such a way that it's truthful and that it's also very beneficial to not only you, but the person who's listening to you. And that you speak in such a way that if you were to listen to a recording of your own voice lifetimes from now, you would be happy with the sound of it. So then we have practices like even just oiling the body to have like physical rejuvenation and healing at a deeper level. There's practices about really spending more time in silence to know what you value the most and to allow yourself a space to be able to start to observe your emotions without reacting to them. To also like give to people you care about in a way that doesn't create dependency, but actually empowers everyone to become more free. And also another practice is writing spiritual truths that you believe in and you want to reinforce for yourself over and over again as a way to remember them when you most need to remember them. A lot of times we cause problems for ourselves because we forget what we know in the moment of stress or instability. And the more you root the memory, the more likely you are to actually remember when you need to remember. So it's strange like this.
Jim, did you or Rick have another question? I think I heard one of your voices, and I had one afterwards, but definitely Rick.
So, like I said, as I said, I know Jim is good at meditation, and I'm less spiritual, but I have my own technologies, and like three of us here are of a certain age, and
Millennials.
yeah, kind of. But like, I'm of the age where sometimes I'll start feeling not at home in my body, and I'm like, "What's going on?" And I'll take my pulse, and my heart is galloping. And it might be from physical pain. It might be from emotional pain when I turn on the news. Might be a combination. It happens in the morning a lot when you're our age. Just getting up and moving around might be, and then seeing the world might be enough to like set this off. And Jim might be able to meditate his way out of it. I can, like, I'll take my blood pressure and I have a couple things. I'll drop my head back. I'll be like, and roll my eyes up into my head and try to super relax, which helps a little bit. I also have a beta blocker, which knocks down my adrenaline. So there, you can do a combination. Like if of the practices you're talking about, and some of the tech, measuring, seeing what the state of your body is. So, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff you can do, but maybe part of it starts with being aware of how you are physically reacting to the world.
Definitely. Yeah. My first book is actually called The Ayurveda Way, and it teaches how to create a quote unquote designer lifestyle, which allows you to really sleep better, stress less, have healthier digestion. And even at any stage of life, the state of your physical digestion actually is going to determine so many other things about your overall health. So we really look at that first and foremost. And then we have all kinds of other practices in Ayurveda, like oiling the body, which are very helpful for pain. And the whole purpose of both Ayurveda and yoga as spiritual practices are to really support the body and the mind to be able to feel stable enough to be able to go within and discover your true self. But I think meditation is something that most people are not yet prepared to really be able to do. And that's why even just making a meditative ritual out of taking care of your body and following some of these practices can really, really help you even more than struggling with the mind as you're seated in meditation before you're ready for it. So I think, absolutely taking care of the body is so important. And that's why I'm so grateful to have the knowledge of Ayurveda as well. And I do teach another program about taking health into your own hands, which has helped a lot of people have really remarkable improvements in their physical aches and pains, their ability to sleep better at night, be more present, etc.
Yeah, Rick, sorry, Mark. Rick has said a couple of times I'm good at meditation, but I was terrible when I first tried it. And I actually went to a place called Ananda and hired someone to teach me how to meditate. And I told her I had monkey mind, and it kept chattering every time I tried to meditate. And so she asked me to visualize a white cloud in the sky, and I said, sure. And she said, well, when a monkey starts to chatter, put the monkey on the cloud, let it drift away. And about 100, 200 monkeys later, I was able to calm down and quiet my mind. So, but there's also the technique of counting, inhale for 6, hold for 6, and the number doesn't matter. Exhale for 6. And there's different tools and techniques. And I wanted to emphasize that the tools and techniques of spiritual yoga philosophy and the types of work that you're doing, this is a science and technology that's been developed over a millennium. And I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I can be, if I'm open to it, I can be taught and learn how to do these things. even if it's uncomfortable at the beginning. And for me, it certainly was. But with the more practice, then it may not get easy, but it gets easier. And now it's just part of my daily rituals. And I don't even think about it. I have to do this spiritual stuff first thing in the morning. And it's not something I have to do. It's something I just do.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hey, Anada, just really quick, along those same lines and everything, what is your thoughts or philosophy? Because, like I mentioned, it definitely became very popular during the pandemic and other crises as well. But a lot of people are seeing like apps and even like computerized ways to relax. I know that sometimes people will put a waterfall on their computer when they're going to sleep and everything along those lines, so they'll just hear the water relaxing them and everything like that. So I'm just wondering your thoughts around technology being used as a tool to help with meditation and to help with yoga and everything like that. Because even during the pandemic, I got involved with Daybreakers, which is that group of folks, a lot of millennials and Gen Zs that were doing the dance moves and all along those lines. But they oftentimes would practice yoga before getting into the whole dance movement and everything like that. But I just wondering your thoughts around using some of these modern technologies in order to help with the relaxation.
Yeah, I think whatever helps you, you should definitely use it. Like I'm very grateful that I've spent time learning these things over a long period of time in person. So I don't personally use technology as much, but I do like to actually tune into a live kind of meditation gathering that is done by a teacher via Zoom. So actually, yeah, even I do that as well. And I think it is really beneficial. And there's something nice to knowing that other people are doing the same thing as you. It kind of helps the mind feel that it's connected, to more than just oneself. So I think either way, is great. I think it's good not to be dependent fully on technology, just in case it doesn't work one day or 1 week, or who knows if you're traveling. But I think, make the most of what we have, for sure.
Yep. Hey, Jacoby, you're my gaming expert. Do you know any games that are involved in the whole yoga practice that Anada may be interested in and all along those lines? Because you're definitely the person involved in the video game industry and everything. So, and as you've told me before, there's a game for just about everything. So I'm thinking there's got to be a game for yoga and meditation as well. So is there a game for that particular field that you are aware of?
Technically every game, because that's what a lot of people utilize for stress relief. But I mean, there are particular the Nintendo Wii had a whole setup that was all about yoga and stress relief. There was Wii Fit that had the whole yoga mat that was involved in the whole thing. There's tons of games actually that are good for meditation. I can't remember the name. There's actually a movie studio that has, or a movie production company that has a whole background in, or a side of gaming, and they deal with a lot of meditating games. I can't think. There's what's the name? Into the Blue is one that deals with going into the ocean, but a lot of the sound and everything else is dealing with meditation in the background. There are a lot of games that have a lot of background music. There's one that I'm playing right now called No Man's Sky, which has been developed over years. It's basically, I mean, I'm a big space nerd. So it really is the best space game if you're trying to, I guess, deal with not only the distances of space and the loneliness of space, but also in all of it, you've got to rest and relax as you're flying to the next planet. You've got to figure out ways to not panic when your life support system is going out. And so they have, technically every game would have some type of stress relief in it. There's a lot of fun stuff about games.
So last month, I dodged COVID for 5.5 years, but it finally got me last month. And one way COVID, when you have it, and even after, if you happen to get long COVID, one way COVID damages you is it overactivates your immune system, so you're super irritated. Towards the end of my time with COVID, I got itchy, like my skin was was easily irritated. And can you talk about, like, for people, I mean, and most Americans, I think, have probably had COVID by this time. Can you talk about how some of these practices might help to, I will at least make you less irritable emotionally, which might help the whole, calming your.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think that the whole journey of the Goddess book, it really helps with the emotional irritation, by not denying it, by just learning to observe it and to be with it. And I feel that, all of these things, actually, the whole path of Ayurveda, everything in both of the books is really designed for that. It really does help you with the emotions. I think also expression of emotions through writing is helpful, because we sometimes just need to release what we have inside and be able to get that out of our system in a way that will not hurt anyone or any relationship, so writing it just for yourself to clear it, and then seeing what it is you can learn from that, I feel is really, really beneficial and helpful to do. But everything, like eating digestion friendly foods, like recipes, and using certain spices in your cooking, and just the whole path itself is designed to support your mental and physical well-being. There's actually 3 different qualities of the mind itself, according to yoga and Ayurveda philosophy. One is the quality of lethargy, darkness, depression, feeling kind of stuck and not moving. And then the next quality is called rajas, which is the opposite. It's action, passion, motion, doing lots of things. And then the third quality of the mind, which is actually the true state of the mind, is known as sattva. And sattva is the perfect balance of rest and motion or activity. And it's the equilibrium of the mind. It's the peace of mind, it's balance, it's clarity, it's harmoniousness. And it's actually the quality that all of these practices are building up.
One thing, go ahead and I'll get to you, Jim. One of the things that we talk a lot about on this network and everything is work-life balance and everything like that. So I was just wondering your thoughts on how you are doing with the work-life balance, because like I said, you mentioned you've written 2 books, and I'm thinking you probably already got a 3rd or 4th book in your head and everything like that, and you moved from LA or California where you were to Florida. So how do you feel that you are doing in your own personal work-life balance?
It's always a work in progress. I think harmony is a better word than balance, because balance kind of implies that you're always on a seesaw. It's either going up or going down, and it's never quite in the middle. But harmony is like a peaceful coexistence of all aspects of your life, and that's really what I strive for. And I do feel today that I'm definitely in a really harmonious place, because my intention with all the work that I do is to really embody it myself, first and foremost, and to be a student of my own experiences. And I think rooting myself in that intention over and over again in the face of obstacles, difficulties, and challenges has really helped me to experience the full benefit of the things that I teach other people. And that's something I think all of us on the healing path really need, because oftentimes we carry the actual medicine that we need for ourselves, and we keep telling other people to do it. And it's good if they do it, but it's even better if we also do it, because the fact that we're saying it, it's somewhere a projection of our own reality. And so, understanding that, it's like, oh, it's me who really needs to look at this book. It's me who needs to, do all of these things. And if I am humble enough to admit that and, continue to learn from even what I've written myself, then life unfolds in quite a remarkable way to give me the exact kind of experiences that allow me to unfold more fully into my own kind of wisdom that came from my higher self, and integrate it more into my day-to-day embodied self.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jim.
Thanks. I tried to order your book through Amazon just now, and it's available on audiobook. And I wondered, is it your voice, or is it who is the voice on the audiobook?
It is my voice. Yes.
All right. Then I will buy it right now.
So
You should be able to get it in any version, ebook, audiobook, or the hardcover.
Yeah, it's a hardcover or audiobook is what it says.
Okay.
And I'm cheap, so I have credit.
Any version is good.
Okay.
Rick, you had a question? And then I think
I've seen quite a few Bollywood movies, and it seems like life in India, like a ton of stuff is going on. I think India is the most populous country on earth right now, and Bollywood, like, it seems like, I mean, it reminds me of life in New York or LA, where there's just like traffic and noise and like rich running into poor and like slums next to wealth and people on scooters. Did your techniques, like, I mean, did the techniques that you are talking about, did they evolve as a way to find peace in a country that, where a ton of stuff is just going on all the time?
I would think so, yeah. Yeah, actually, there are these sages called rishis who lived in ancient India, and they lived away from society. So they went to the mountains, they went to the Himalayas, and they observed nature. And from their observations of nature, they were able to unfold for us the knowledge of yoga, which happens to include a lot of references to nature, like tree pose, mountain pose, dog, downward facing dog, cobra pose, right? So they didn't just randomly label these with animal names or nature names. They actually spent a whole lifetime observing the cobra, observing the tree, observing the mountain, and seeing what it is that we can learn from nature and how people in these overpopulated cities especially can really benefit from applying these practices in a more distilled way to really find their balance even in ancient times. Because India has always been a crazy place with a lot of people, and this is how they learned to, live more peacefully within chaos. So
even the Gita itself is in a war setting. It's a smaller symbol of the larger work. And Krishna is telling Arjuna that he must fight, even though it's against people who taught him how to fight, and against loved ones and family and all of that kind of complications that go into it. So people, as long as you can think of, have always been agitated by something, and people have, whatever the culture is and wherever you are, there have been people who have been trying to teach people a different way of looking at it, so that cooperation can replace conflict. And this is in an art society, we're competitive, and so it's very difficult for these concepts to catch on. But I have often thought, and I have confidence based on experience when I say that when you're cooperating with others, even if you're setting up a room, if you're doing it by yourself, it's one thing, but if you're doing it with someone else, it's easy. The two hands can do so much, and four hands can do so much more.
No, that's very true and everything. You may not know it not and everything, but because we hear a lot now about India in the news, is the leadership of India, like Modi, are they still involved heavily in the yoga practice or not? Or do you know, or have you heard? Because I've never been sure whether he was involved in the yoga and meditation practice as much, even though that is part of the history of the country and everything. But I was just wondering if you heard whether the current leadership is involved in the practice or not.
Yeah, actually, Narendra Modi is a huge proponent of yoga and Ayurveda. So he actually comes from the same state of India as I do. And he has really, really brought people's awareness much more strongly to these practices in India, which I think is so great. I actually recently had the Ministry of Ayurveda Yoga, Unani, homeopathic medicine, reach out to me to do some kind of a social media collaboration to continue to spread the knowledge of holistic health and healing. So I think they're quite active in promoting this once again, which I think is really great.
Cool. That sounds really good. Jatovi, you had a video that you wanted to show us or something? Because I saw that you had a screen that was there.
Yeah, so this was, I also shared the actual link to the actual game in the chat. And this was the company that I was trying to remember the name of. It also has a movie component as well. But this game in itself kind of, I heard us talking about emotions. This is one of those independent games that deals with kind of emotions and overcoming those emotions and ways to, I mean, not really ways to, but it takes the individual on a journey through a character's life. And it's a sad time, but it's Mark, if you could pull it up.
Yeah.
But it is a game that you will cry at, which I've done multiple times. But it's actually a really cool story that it tells. It doesn't say a word. Everything is sound and what you hear. I mean, except for the text that you have to read and stuff, but
I'm sad already.
But this is an actual walkthrough of the game. So there's a gentleman actually who recorded his walkthrough as he played it on YouTube. And as you see, you can kind of get the gist of where this is going.
Oh, I see.
And remember, that's the medal that she just won.
I saw all those trophies.
And for me, I love these long, slow-paced games because they have meaning. But I don't want to play too much of this because it's going to take a long time. I mean, it is an hour-long playthrough. But to give you the gist, if you couldn't tell from the start, of course, she feels alone. She's by herself. Had a very huge moment just happen in her life. You can see all the trophies. She's a great swimmer. What you find out later is that she was raised by a single mother who had an abusive father, and she's overcoming this because of her life experiences. As you see, everything goes to this, and she's missing her mother because her mother passed away.
Oh.
So how do you get through that? Because that's a life thing that people have to deal with. And I think with your book and everything else that you're talking about, all these things that people have to overcome, this is, a way that gaming does it and puts them in that experience.
How would you get me out of my sadness right now?
Yeah.
I'm feeling gloomy. So one thing I've learned is that feelings pass. I used to think if I felt this way, it would last forever, but feelings are impermanent. So I'm no longer as intense about my feelings because I know.
Hey, Jim, you mentioned something earlier interesting and all along those lines, and I remember that y'all remember, and I'm gonna, because I can do that because I'm the program director for the station and everything along those lines. And Nick's not here, so I can do whatever I feel like.
There you go.
And everything like that. But you remember in the early times of the station, We had a couple of spiritual shows and spiritual information,
Yes,
like that.
Purple
So,
Lotus.
Nada, if you would love to come in regularly on this show, which is our new show, or even create your own show, which I can help you create and everything, we'd love to have you back on a regular basis because you do have a lot of good information and all along those lines and everything. So I just thought to throw that out there. You don't have to answer yes or no. But yes.
And if you need an Ed McMahon, I'd be happy to do.
Right, so what?
All right, I have a question for the meditators here.
Let's kill the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody gonna start crying at this.
All right. So here's a headline that just popped up. Poland says it shot down Russian drones that violated its airspace during attack on Ukraine, and World War III is trending on X. So you meditators, you have anything that'll help us not freak out?
Is it something you can control, Rick?
No.
No, I can't control it either. So, I just have to accept what's going on without trying. If I know I'm powerless over it, then why would I hurt myself by fretting and worrying? And also, my nature is to go to the worst case scenario. And so, what I try to do is think that who knows what's going to happen? It might be a ceasefire tomorrow, today. Who knows? I can't control the outcome, and so I practice non-attachment. I try not to attach to the outcome and try not to have any expectations about what's coming next.
So I have another political question. Right now in America, there's a ton of political strife, and you could say that America is kind of run by idiots at this point. But if you look at India, now Americans don't hear that much about India, but we hear that you guys have strife too. It is
Nepal.
Yeah, well, Nepal, the government just got knocked down. They tried to stop, and Nepal sits on top of India to the north, and the government just fell because the government tried to deny people social media. So I guess my question is India doing any better than the U.S. at overcoming internal political strife?
I would probably say no. I think political stuff is always going to be a mess as long as there's politics and people battling over external power and not realizing that true power lives within oneself. There's always going to be problems, right? It's just a mental problem that gets exaggerated out manyfold. So I feel that as spiritual warriors, what we're being called to do is just hold steady in our own practices and in the conviction of that practice and those messages, and to believe in the power of grassroots and to believe in the power of collaboration and joining forces with those who are also seeking to do good in the world, and just focus on what it is you can do proactively, and don't give so much attention to what is going on that maybe directly impacts you or indirectly impacts you, but you, like Jim said, have no control over. It's much better to deal with what you can control and really make the most of that, because our human journey is very short relative to everything, and we have to really just practice living in the present moment with full appreciation of whatever gifts and blessings we have, and if we're safe and if we're having a roof over our head, food on the table, and the ability to earn for ourselves and to be able to help other people, I think the best way to live a good life, no matter what your situation, is to be of service in some way, to take care of your body as your temple, and to really see how is it that I can be of service. And that will automatically uplift our whole state of being and our own vibration. And I believe that ripples out to those around us and those who we get to reach in whatever way we can.
Yeah, well, two things that we're going to wrap up really quickly, about another minute and a half and everything. But Anada, I think that maybe we need to have a meditation session, to Rick's point, in the White House and definitely in Congress because they need some serious help and all along those lines. So maybe some meditation might help them and all along those lines, and maybe some yoga. So I can see Marjorie Taylor Greene and Cory Booker doing yoga and all along those lines. Just the sight of that might be a good sight and all along those lines. So maybe we'll have those folks doing some practices in that sense. So that's my little attempt at Rick's humor, but Rick's a better comedian as is Jacoby, but at least I do a decent job every once in a while and everything like that. But just really quickly, if you'll tell folks how they can reach you, how they can be in contact with you, and how they can get the book like Jim did earlier and everything like that. And then we'll get ready to wrap up. I know we've got Modern Investment coming up at 1 o'clock, which Sasha Star. Jim will probably be on that as well as will Milan and everything like that. So definitely, if you just let folks know how they can reach you.
Yeah, sure. I'm just actually typing it into the chat here. So this is my organization, The Ancient Way, where I host my programs and community. And I left my email address in there. You can order the book on Amazon, and I'll just leave the link for that here quickly for you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and then you can also follow me on Instagram. I plan to get more active. I've taken a little break to rebuild all the infrastructure, and now I feel called to go back out. So I'll be there as well.
Cool. And I'll put that on the banner and everything like that as I get that out there. Any final thoughts, Jim and Rick, while we try to get this there before I put the outro and everything along those lines so that folks can order the book and do these other things as well?
I'll tell you, many times on Modern Edition, we talk about world events and politics, and I get agitated. So this was a joy to have a different experience, and thank you so much for your presence.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, like I said, I like to mix it up some, as y'all know. So I know sometimes we get a little bit too caught up in our argument back and forth. So it's always good to have a little bit different type show. I know that some of the
That's the first time Jatovia and I were on and didn't argue with each other.
Well, that's a normal, actually. It's the first time. The ones that we do argue with didn't pop up.
That's right. Usually we're allies, but it still can get my blood pressure up, which I now
can't do
know
that.
how to relax.
So great show, and we'll be back with Modern Investment very shortly. Glad to have all of y'all on. Anada, I hope that I'll see you back on the future
you,
shows
Mark.
as well. But definitely, it was very enjoyable. Hopefully, get you back in the near future as well.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Yes, come back. Thank you for having me.
No problem.
Bye-bye.